It's crazy how it's still on a decline. It's crazy how you could predict a decline of something for the human population, and yet nobody really pays attention to it. And it's like you predict this and you think there should be kind of a change for this because it's showing that it's a decline, it's in a negative. But there's, like I said, no push for change, and yet these numbers predict what's going to happen in the future, and they've been right because we said this 3 years ago and it's still happening, which is wild to think about.
I gotta go. I've been working, told them please don't hit my phone. I'm in my zone, bruh, just leave me alone. Was on the road, but I swear I'm coming home. Now the drinks on me, I think we need a toast. See, I did it for me. Now my old friends calling, told them nothing's for free. Told me time is money, dog, swear I paid all my fees. I was starving for this game, now my family can eat.
Welcome everyone to the Comers Podcast with your hosts Matt and myself, Peter Fundera. Thank you for tuning this on this couple of news episode. For some housekeeping as always, thank you guys for your time, thank you guys for your views. Make sure to check us out on YouTube. We have all our videos on YouTube so you guys see how we actually physically look and interact. Same with Spotify, we got all our videos on Spotify. And don't forget to check out couplenurses.com where we house all our show notes, all our blogs, all our information regarding us, and of course the couplenurses.shop to get you the latest merch. Matt's actually wearing the Right Now shirt, and that's available at wearefrontlinewarriors.shop. And wearefrontlinewarriors.com is our sister site. A lot of cool mindfulness, consciousness, health stuff on there, blog posts you can read through. And then we're also going to do a few new things on there coming here shortly. But I'm wearing the a nursing school shirt actually. Sorry, can't. Nursing school for our nursing students out there. Available on couplenurses.shop. And also we have the Pronto app coming out. Hopefully here in the next couple weeks. Been working diligently on this for the last couple months. We're trying to revolutionize and innovate how we do healthcare employment basically, and also a place for you to get the latest health and job related information. That's prontohealth.com. So what's up, Matt? How's it going?
How you doing, Pete?
I'm great.
On today's episode, in the honor of all the men listening worldwide, we're going to talk about an important topic about the decline of serum testosterone levels among young adult men. This data is from 1999 to 2006, and it's quite a decline. It's important because testosterone makes us men. It's one of the big differentiating factors between our two sexes, if they still exist.
And you need testosterone for life itself. Like we mentioned before, and we'll get into detail here, is you can't have estrogen without testosterone. So testosterone is one of the building blocks from estrogen, and that's what separates us from male and female. But what's actually interesting is we were talking about this before the show, is that we talked about this same issue back in August of 2019. So roughly 3 years ago, we mentioned the same issue and the same problem going on with men's health, and it's trending in the same direction. So it's just crazy how we're repeating the same thing and the same issue that was going on 3 years ago, and no one seems to be addressing this. It stems a lot from the stuff that we consume and how we live our lives, and it's crazy how it's still on a decline. It's crazy how you could predict a decline of something for the human population, and yet nobody really pays attention to it. And it's like you predict this and you think there should be kind of a change for this because it's showing that it's a decline, it's in a negative. But there's, like I said, no push for change, and yet these numbers predict what's going to happen in the future, and they've been right because we said this 3 years ago and it's still happening, which is wild to think about.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about testosterone, a few studies, and then how as a male you could prevent and protect yourself from the decline. So a lot of things that we always preach about, lifestyle and diet, which we'll get into. And for all the females that are listening out there, that's the majority of our audience. If you find value in this podcast, send it to your loved one, your boo-boo, boyfriend, fiance, husband, get them hooked up on the show. All right, so testosterone. It is a hormone that it primarily plays and regulates sex drive in males. It's important for libido, body mass, for fat distribution to muscle mass. It strengthens us, and the production of red blood cells has to do with that, and also sperm. Can't forget that's how friggin' we have come through evolution. And also a small amount of testosterone is also converted to estradiol, which is estrogen, which we need as men as well.
Yeah, you can't have life without testosterone. It's literally one of the building blocks to how we function as humans, how we move out through life, through everything, the way we even think, what influences our choices. It's wild how important testosterone is and how it separates us from other animals and things like that, and it helps us grow as humans. And it's still an ongoing issue, and it hasn't been addressed. Like we said, 3 years ago, we talked about this, and a lot of it's interesting. We'll get into later. It's very diet heavy.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's crazy because if you think about this, if you keep going on this decline, we're heading towards unknown territory because we're not sure how we're going to be able to function as humans with less testosterone. So are people going to slowly start getting smaller and smaller and smaller until, you know, something drastic happens? Because technically a lowering in testosterone, it would lead to less muscle development, just less size in general, right? So is there a point where we can make ourselves obsolete and not like a top tier predator, you could say, on Earth?
Evolution, right?
You know what I'm saying?
And in mammals, 95% of them, they have testosterone produced in the testes into the latex cells, and that's where the testes produce them. And they're
balls.
The balls, aka. And that's like, it's funny when we talk about like being a teenager in 8th grade and like freshman year, that's like the saying, like it really is just testosterone. It's like, oh, your balls dropped, right?
Yeah, right.
It's like, you know, in the voice, the Adam's apple, a little bit of mustache.
Do you remember when your balls dropped as a kid?
No.
Oh, when you started to get attracted to girls, technically, right? Is that when because when you start getting attracted to girls, that's probably when you're entering puberty. Because it's all weird. You're just like, hey, this is a girl. She's
like
my friend.
Sexuality.
But I kind of want to explore some shit, you know?
That's funny because we're like in like 5th grade, and I used to have that like book of the human anatomy because I loved science, and I brought like 2 of my friends. I remember we're like looking at the boobs section or something.
It's always good.
He was like cracking up and like, you know, good old times.
Yeah, dude. Me and the homies back in the day, maybe like 5th grade or whatever. What class you're talking about is, remember those car magazines? They used to always have like hottest girls because, you know, when you grow up as a boy, basically. You're interested in cars and girls when you grow up and you hit puberty.
Like Super Street, all those import cars.
And they always had the sexy girls in there. So I remember me and the homies, we used to tear off the pages with the sexy girls and have like a separate section for the sexy girls and a separate section for the cars. So it's like, you know, the homies could look through the girls while other homies look through the cars, and you swap. Funny thing in the world. And I got caught with that by my parents. And that was like the most embarrassing time one of the most embarrassing times of my childhood. I got to talk, you know.
That's funny.
Yeah, so I guess that's probably when I started entering puberty, right? It was like probably like 5th, 6th grade.
I also love
probably 5th, I think.
I love those calendars, the monthly ones where you swipe up and there's a different chick.
Those are good.
Very motivational.
We should bring those back, bro. We should get one. I'm gonna order one on Amazon for sure. We should have one on the shop.
A nursing thing.
A calendar for the boys. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Maybe you know, majority of our audience is female. We can have something for the boys. Just for the homies.
Yeah, let's do it.
And it could be all be sexy female nurses on there.
There we go.
If anybody wants to audition for a calendar, you know, drop us a DM or send us an email. That'd be so funny.
Idea to be determined. Another project we take on. We take on way too much projects, and then everything takes forever to move along. But anyway, so let's talk about this research study. So this research analyzed young adult men from 1999 and 2006. So they tracked this decline in young adult males with normal body mass indexes according to all the results. So this was just published in 2020 in American Urological Association Virtual Experience. So we can also associate testosterone lowering in age. It's a normal factor where as you get younger, you have less body mass, you get smaller technically. As you get an adult, your hair starts to bald. So testosterone decrease is natural amongst men. So it is time dependent. However, in this research study, they talked about the results that this decline is attributed to multiple ideologies that we're going to talk about, or ideologies. And
that's why people go on TRT therapy or testosterone replacement therapy, because when you reach a certain age, usually it's for men, it's about like 45-ish. It happens maybe 50 depending on your genetics. And people have it's like, I'm not sure how it feels personally because I haven't gone through it, but there's something that changes with human body, the male body and the male mind, where they go on TRT to get that kind of those feelings back. You could say that energy or whatever issues they're having, they go on TRT and sex drive or whatever the issues are, and they feel better, rejuvenated, because that's something that dwindles over time. And it's almost like, you know how women get like fake boobs and a fake ass. TRT is almost like, I don't want to say fake manhood because I don't really believe in that, I guess.
There's also the pump things, implants.
True, yeah.
Which has like I've never touched one before, but the nurses have told me that there's like a little button on there or somewhere you press and the thing just
like instead of your dick? Oh, like artificial penis?
Yeah, and that's solving the problem of erectile dysfunction disease with the implant. Because you're talking about how females get their there's a specific term that the women use that describes
BBL.
BBL, yeah.
Brazilian butt lift?
Yeah, including everything else. Anyways, my dentist told me that he's actually trying to transition because dentistry is.
I thought you meant transition like from a dude.
No.
I was like,
Sorry.
bro, no
We're
way.
getting
right
off
now.
topic here,
I'm
but
getting on this right now.
it's funny because the time that we have to record a podcast quick, we're diverting on things. But anyways, my dentist said that he wants to get into Botox and things like that because it's a really good industry, and dentistry is really tough. And
what if you have your dentist on for a podcast episode? Seems like a pretty interesting guy to talk to.
He would probably
About
love that.
teeth.
Let's go take care of that.
Yeah, do you
sometime.
brush teeth twice a day, 3 times a day? What's the correct amount to brush? Because, back in the day, it was always after each meal. And nobody has time to brush after each meal, right? But that's what's recommended. Yeah, we should get him on.
Definitely.
He'd be open to.
So let's continue with this research study. So
if Matt's dentist is listening to this right now, we want you on a podcast.
Yes. So 4,045 young adult men were observed in the study, and they were controlled the years, they controlled the age, race, BMI, comorbidity status, alcohol, smoking use, and physical activity. So they tracked a lot, and that's why these results are very shocking. So before we talk about the decline, let's talk about some average acceleration of testosterone in age groups. So if you're early teen, 12 to 13, entering puberty, you should have a level of 700 to 800 nanograms per deciliter. 15 to 16, it goes 100 to 1200. So that's where you hit peak of puberty. When you're 17 and 18,
it's a fast car.
When you're 17 and 18 and a young adult, testosterone levels are between 300 to 1200. And then adults 19 and up, your testosterone sits anywhere from 240 to 950, depending on the activity status and the genetics that you have.
And crazy how that changes. Like such a jump from 13-year-olds to 16-year-olds. Like it almost, it's wild. Wow. What's crazy? Someone could always stay in that 100 level technically, because if you're a 13-year-old with 100 nanograms per deciliter of testosterone, that's like your minimum for puberty, I guess. So interesting how that's.
I've only got my testosterone checked once. It's really a hard lab to get as far as blood from a primary physician, because it's not something that insurance covers. There has to be a valid reason. So if you want to get your testosterone checked, you should tell them maybe some of the symptoms that you might have, and then they'll maybe check vitamin D before they check that, or they could do both, which I've done. So just tell them maybe you work night shift or you work exhausted hours and you want to
just say something
with that. Yeah.
Any kind of response would be, and of course, like Matt said, it might not be covered by insurance. Might have to do out of pocket, but it's always a good value to check. What I'm thinking now, I might get just out of curiosity, if I remember to do this, is maybe I'll get my testosterone checked after doing this contract of night shift, see how it is, and then take like a few weeks off and then check it after that, and then see how it differs.
Yeah. And that would be cool if we did that for this show, is when you're analyzing your own body to show people the results of what happens with diet, like wearing like a glucose monitoring
I feel like maybe you could buy like a testosterone kit, like how you could buy like those drug tests on Amazon and stuff. I wonder if you could buy like testosterone test kits.
Yeah, and you never know, maybe Quest Labs actually does it,
and maybe we can get it on a couple nurses.shop.
There we go. So in 1999, which is the beginning of the research study, the average testosterone level in this 4,000 case study was 605. 03 to 04, which is 4 years later roughly, 567. So we have a little bit of a drop. Then he took a break of 9 years in the study from 2011 to 2012. Testosterone decreased to 424, and then towards the end of the study, 451. So just analyzing these 17 years, the testosterone dropped by 150 points.
Is that crazy?
That's just a number that we have. We don't know what exactly that means and what kind of percentage of effects that has on the body, because this was there was some, of course, limitations to the study, where it was an observational study. It was self-reported, so there could be biases.
Do you remember what age group this was?
Young adult men, so 19 and up is what they call it.
19 and up, like even a
up.
60-year-old. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So now that I'm thinking about looking this, just real quick,
because 65 plus, you're more elderly, so that would be the cutoff ideally.
So anywhere from like 19, you said, to like let's just say 60.
Yeah.
And this is the average of it, right? So interesting. So, but now I'm thinking, could these results possibly be skewed because if you have an overly older population, you could say, because what if a majority of these people are from the age of like 40 to 60?
Yeah.
And only like 20% are.
It was mostly young, because there's adults, not young adults. So it was 19 to let's just say 30. I just can't get the number right now.
Okay, interesting. Okay, yeah, for sure. I was just curious, that's all.
Yeah, and they also noticed that as you have an elevated BMI, you have a direct correlation with a decrease of testosterone levels. And what's interesting is these 17 years, the BMI increased from 25.83 to 27.96. So we have obesity on the rise, diabetes, and everything correlates to a decrease in testosterone level.
Yeah, crazy, man. And cardiac disease too. Like all these issues are on the rise, and further depleting everything else.
Yeah, like
it's wild.
You need testosterone to have aggression, have energy, and do things in both sexes. So it's important to maintain it. So let's look at some possible causes of why you might have a decrease in testosterone. So we're going to talk about increased obesity and the BMI correlation, diet. So all the PFAs, phytoestrogens, the decline of physical activity in males, which correlates with fat percentages such as diet. We have marijuana use and then some environmental toxins. So if you look at obesity, there's a direct correlation when your body creates insulin resistance. It associates with less sex hormone binding globulin, which decreases testosterone. And what happens is testosterone levels get suppressed because of the hypothalamic pituitary testicular axis. So you have the brain that stimulates hormones, that stimulates testes to produce testosterone. And then also obesity decreases iron stores and dysregulates the mechanism of iron production, which also creates less total free circulating levels of testosterone.
Yeah, it's crazy how that's correlated too.
Yeah, and if you we have a nice graph on the show notes which shows obesity, which creates the whole metabolic syndrome cascade, aka insulin resistance, increased cytokines, ILX factors. This also causes insulin resistance and endothelial dysfunction, which has a direct correlation with cardiovascular disease and also erectile dysfunction disease. And both erectile dysfunction disease and a whole metabolic cascade decreases testosterone. So obesity has a direct correlation with that.
Yeah, so this is like a giant circulatory system issue. And that's why, like you said, you can't get hard, because if it's poor circulation, you're obviously going to perfuse better in like your heart and your organs, and you're going to leave the peripheral stuff on the outside. So it's going to affect your reproductive system, and it's, you're not going to be able to get that thing up. And just that's basically, and it could come from a genetic issue. It could be caused from obesity. In this case, it's from obesity causes it. So if you're on the lower end of the testosterone spectrum to begin with, because genetics or whatever other factors, and now you're also, you could say, on the heavier side, and you're nearing obesity, that's going to even bring your testosterone even lower. So you might now be at the threshold borderline of lower testosterone, and losing weight might be a really good solution for you instead of going to get like testosterone replacement therapy or anything like that. You could solve your own issues by just fixing this one factor that's contributing to your low testosterone.
Yeah, and that's what it all comes down to, those simple key things. And that's why we don't push any supplements onto people and promote that, because your body is a beautiful mechanism. You just have to feed it the right information so it could do the right thing.
Right, yeah. Even though we take multivitamins almost every day, you could say, but if you're relying on multivitamins as like the major key source of your vitamins and minerals, that's not a good way to look at life. And if you're taking like 8 or 9 pills, 10 pills a day, like why are you taking so much pills? Like what are you missing from your normal lifestyle that isn't being given to your body?
And speaking of a normal diet, we looked at a 2016 study that investigated dietary patterns and decreased serum total levels of T. So they did questionnaires. They collected blood and food frequencies of 125 adults in the study. And the results suggested that the individuals who preferred the Western diet, which is bread, pastries, dairy products, the noodles, the desserts, and ate less food at home, had a direct correlation of an unhealthy body, which showed increased visceral fat, decreased skeletal muscle, and low serum T levels. So Western diet is one issue. And it makes sense because look at the rise of everything that happens that we talk about in the podcast.
Yeah, and you can't blame each of these macronutrients for something. Like protein is not the culprit, fat isn't the culprit, and carbs aren't the culprit. The issue is the whole calorie count itself, and also the processed foods are major issues, because you have a high amount of calories. So you can say you have a high amount of energy in there with not a lot of nutritional intake. So it's like quick energy that you have to burn off now and never has the ability to hold you over. That's the biggest issue, because people look at carbs. Oh, you have to maintain below 50 carbs to promote this, and if you don't hit this much protein, you're not gonna be able to induce this. Like, yeah, you could say that all you want, but the main issue is the processed foods, because on processed foods you have carbs, you have proteins and fats. But remember that majority of those are going to be you can say the quick energy that you have to burn off now, and it's not going to help you in your longevity of life and whatever your goals are, as you could say in your exercise or whatever you want to do with it. As people fail to understand it, that you can't just cut carbs and expect some crazy results. You can't cut protein and expect results, and you can't cut fat for some specific results. You have to take into account all of these macronutrients, carbs, proteins, and fats, because those are the building blocks to your hormones, and this would actually make sure your organs function and work together.
Yeah, and the visceral fat's a really bad one too. So if you're gaining weight and you have deposits of visceral fat next to organs, they're continuously releasing toxins around that organ, which is making it not function properly.
It's like added weight for no purpose.
Yeah, and you have environmental toxins, which is podcast episode that we did about like the endocrine disruptors. So what they do is they could either turn off hormones, they could mimic the normal hormones in your body, make them do things so they mimic natural estrogen in our body, and they sometimes alter them when they become way too hyper and they create dysfunction. So things to watch out for are examples such as BPA in plastics and drinking water, your containers that you're microwaving that are leaking BPAs into your body, the PFAs, the phytoestrogens from food or high soy products. You have the phthalates from like cosmetic products, shampoos, and tetracycline even, which is in most dishwashing ingredients. Those all mimic hormones in your body and lead to unwanted changes.
Yeah, if you want to learn more in depth about these hormone disruptors, like those phthalates and stuff, Dr. Rhonda Patrick, if you want to look her up on Google or whatever, Dr. Rhonda Patrick, she talks a lot about this and how to minimize these. Talks a lot about antioxidants and what's actually true about them and how you should go about them. And same with the Harvard doctor, the one with the mice, with the longevity doctor,
David Sinclair.
Yeah, Dr. David Sinclair. He's also a big speaker about phthalates and different kind of antioxidant stuff. So Dr. Rhonda Patrick and then other dude,
David Sinclair.
Dr. David Sinclair are good global resources to check out.
Stress is another one, and we know there's that direct correlation between cortisol levels, which is from high stress, and that leads to a decrease in testosterone. So getting enough sleep, living a more balanced life, and cutting off the stress, whether it's mental, physical, that all affects us.
And then, it's crazy because like rest promotes testosterone, and so does exercise also promotes testosterone. So you have to have a nice balance between those. If you do too much exercise, you're losing out on it because you're stressing your body too much and it's not able to catch up on the recovery. And then if you're not exercising hard enough or straining enough, you're not getting out of that comfort zone and you're not really building anything or growing muscle, so testosterone is still going to stay the same. And it's crazy how it's a nice balance between both of them, and you can't overdo one. Just like with everything else, just like with diet.
Such as life.
Yeah, it's your life. Like we talked about the diet a little bit ago, you can't overdo on each macronutrient. You have to have a abundance of all of them, and they all work synergistically together. Lesson life.
Yes, and physical activity is another one that helps with increasing your testosterone levels. So we looked at a 2016 studies that showed 41 individuals that were overweight, and they followed a complex 12-week lifestyle diet which focused on aerobic training exercises and calorie restrictions. They measured the testosterone levels by the amount of steps that you're doing, the total intake, and it showed that exercising helps with increasing testosterone. What's interesting in this study is that cardio sometimes has a negative impact on your body. So if you do way too much cardio and you're overburning your body, no matter your sex, cardio could have a negative impact. So if you want to focus on the physical activities that you want to do, you should do HIIT, high intensity interval training. So in this study, they found that individuals who do HIIT training, which is 90-second recoveries, maybe 90-second burst periods of whatever your exercise is, it released more free testosterone levels versus a 45-minute straight cardio session with one pace.
Yeah, for all you ladies out there that are doing a bunch of cardio because you think cardio is the best route to get in that nice butt or toned body, it's actually, to be honest, the opposite. Because if you're training for running, so you're running for long periods of time for long distances, it's inefficient for those muscles to be big. So you're never gonna grow that body part. You're never gonna grow your legs. Never gonna grow your calves by just by running, because over time you need smaller muscles. Smaller muscles work better and more efficiently over long periods of time than bigger muscles. And if you want those nice big muscles, you're going to have to do something called hypertrophy, and you're going to need to grow those muscles, which is going to be weightlifting and less cardiovascular exercises like running.
Sneak peek to next week's episode, right?
Shameless plug.
So we're gonna cover.
Yes, sir.
I'm excited for that one.
I bet you are.
I gotta get more into the gym.
Trying to grow those glutes, huh? I got you, dog.
Biceps. Trying to get 18s.
Looking thick.
I don't know. I'm at maybe like 15.
Yeah, you're 16 and a half, bro.
Thanks, bro. Marijuana use is the last one that we're going to cover on the ways it has a negative impact on testosterone. So
fake news.
A lot of people consume pot, edibles, and all that. So I thought it'd be a great subject to cover.
And plus, we're in California, so you know what's going on over here. And Oregon has it legalized. Illinois has it legalized. A lot of countries in the United States have it legalized now.
It's becoming less taboo.
Correct.
Even in the medical field, my opinion. So a lot of conflicting data. There was Denmark studies that showed it increases testosterone. Other studies said it doesn't. There was a really good study that was released in 2020. They tracked surveys from the National Health and Nutrition Examination, and they tracked mostly 18-year-olds and plus, so young adults again, who were using regular THC users. In this study, they defined regular THC users as having smoking once per month for every single month for a year. Mm-hmm. So I feel like sometimes people consume that a lot more, a lot less, but this is what we're going for, this data, to see what the correlation is.
Yeah, I don't think a regular user would be considered once in a month use. Even if you ask how often do you eat like spinach, and then we say once a month, so that's not very often. Like if you're gonna ask your patient, hey, we're gonna put you on Coumadin, you have to watch out how much spinach you eat and green leafy vegetables, and they say they eat once a month, you're gonna be like, okay, that's fine. Once a month's not a big deal. So it's kind of iffy, but yeah. Carry on.
So we had 5,100 men in this study. 49% of them were regular THC users, so once a month for a year. And they correlated that there's a small increase of testosterone as you're just a regular user. And it starts to decline with the THC uses. So they weren't able to find out, because of course it's a survey, to see how much they smoked. But there was like an inverse U-shaped on this study that showed that THC users using 2 to 3 times per month demonstrated the greatest increase in testosterone. So 66 points in nanograms that was boosted for THC users versus the non-users. So that's a pretty big implication.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
And then after smoking more than 2 to 3 times a month, there's a negative correlation between supposedly there is a abnormal amount of sperm and the shape of the sperm. So you might have a less chance of getting pregnant if you're a marijuana user.
So with that thing is, I'm thinking about all the athletes that use marijuana, and if there's a lot of them. Michael Phelps, he won all those gold medals, avid marijuana user, and he was probably the best swimmer. I'm not sure how it is now, but
even those UFC fighters,
the Diaz brothers, yeah, same with NFL players. They stopped drug testing them for marijuana. Basketball players, even rappers, all the people that you would consider like alpha of the society or whatever, they avidly smoke marijuana. So you know what I'm saying? So you never know.
Yeah.
What if it's like they'd be even more beast mode if they didn't smoke? No, but beast mode keeps them on more of an earthly level.
Yeah, when it comes
holding them back.
And when it comes to the sperm count, if you are somebody that consumes marijuana once a week, on average, you're going to experience lower sperm count.
So a natural birth control.
Yes, technically it is, yeah.
You don't need the patch, just, smoke some pot and, you'll work out better, you'll be a better athlete, and you won't have kids.
It helps with C19. I don't want to say any of those keywords to get flagged. And then also is a natural contraception.
Yeah, I mean, it's aromatherapy if you think about it. Helps with anxiety, sleep. So it's just, I mean, if you ask me, for all those avid smokers, I used to smoke back in my day, and it was pretty fun, So I guess it all went to a good cause.
Yeah. So conclusion of all this, I feel like at the end of the day, it comes to like beliefs, and that's what's an interesting concept about age. What if like we have been programmed subconsciously that, hey, you're going to get old and you're going to decline, and that is the reason why we're getting old so much quicker versus how long people lived. I don't know, that's just a random idea, but the way to kind of think about it is if you believe that you'll lose intelligence by being out in the sun, then you're going to probably get dumber by being in the sun, because the power of belief is so powerful. And the hippocampus is 90%. Yeah, hippocampus. Thank you. Is 90% affected by what you believe and your confidence in the case. So if you believe that that's going to happen based on those results, it can happen. If you think you exercise enough as you do, or your diet is great, that belief might overpower the food that you're eating that could help you maintain T levels. I feel like that's how powerful belief comes down to. So take this with a grain of salt and just live the best life you can and have fun.
Yeah, just to make this a typical couple of news episode is that's the same reason why news keep giving you fear. Because if it's repetitive, it's affecting you. The more you see it, the more you think it, the more you believe it, the more it's actually going to happen.
And that's what's like a trip about it, because like people are like, oh, like how come these events happen, or people watch it on Homer Simpsons or something. Because if you think about it, you program the plant subconsciously, which is the seed, and you watch it grow because you see the outside reality of events happening, and then because you think it gets created, because it gets created by the collective consciousness, which is the people.
Yeah, it's like a fish. It's only gonna be able to grow the size depending on its environment. Yeah, so the fish tank is small, your fish isn't gonna grow very big. But if the fish tank is big, it's got a lot of room to explore, think about stuff, learn about its environment. The bigger the fish is.
Yeah, and that's what's wild.
It's high testosterone too.
And that's what's wild thinking about all this. Which is a funny comment you made, that there was people that are all of a sudden epidemiologists. Everybody had a health opinion, and all of a sudden everybody's a diplomat and a journalist, and is understanding the war and what's happening and talking about it. So it's just crazy how our focus changes in society, and everything just gets like forgotten. Because I feel like if it was truly a big deal, which it was, and a lot of people died, why isn't there a little bit of updates on mainstream media talking about this, or case counts, or hey, maybe you should avoid traveling to Aspen, Colorado, because there's a crazy outbreak. None of that. It just matters about what's selling right now, your attention.
Yeah, is the pandemic over? I mean, if it's over, it's great. Let us know. I would like to know if it's over, because if it is, that's good news. Then we could all proceed back to normal.
I mean, not be so fearful.
Exactly. Yeah.
Directly affecting our mental health.
And we'll take that W. Like, is it because everyone's getting vaccinated? Is that why?
Why'd you use that word, bro? Now we're gonna get flagged on this algorithm.
Yeah. Is it because everyone's getting hit? And we're finally safe. Everyone got enough hits, so now we're safe to go. If that's the case, great, wonderful. I'm glad the experiment worked out, and I'm glad we could move back to normal. But no one's even saying anything. It's just like on hold. And then I feel like once this war blows over, or it doesn't become interesting anymore, bring it back. Maybe in the winter time again. But we'll see. Time will tell. Maybe it's over. Hopefully it is over. And
next thing you know, we're gonna blame climate change on.
But these gas prices, though,
it's tough, man.
It's becoming an issue right here.
Everybody's talking about it.
Next episode here.
I talked to my parents about it and all them. I was like wondering what their perspective is on it, and they really think it's just a push towards electric. So I'm like, okay, you guys are free thinking a little bit here. Yeah. A very good point. You're gonna make people suffer so much, and you pass all these laws that it's just gonna get pushed there.
Yeah, and plus, it's my parents told me like a similar thing. They're like, when Bush was president, gas prices were low. Obama came into office, they bumped up. Trump was in office, they came back down. Biden's in office, they went back up. So it's like, depending on what party's there, that's basically the party that's kind of almost dictating gas prices. And for some reason, depending on what party is, that's you kind of predict on how gas prices are going to go. It's the strangest thing, but somehow it correlates.
Yeah,
and it just is what it is. It's just the shift of money, and each party prefers a different way to shift its money. Some people prefer to shift their money via oil, via gas. Some people shift their money differently. And then depending on who's in power, they have their preference on how money is going to move, what industry is going to flourish over others, because that's they're in charge of that stuff.
And just to think about it, like if I was a big boss in this, and let's just say, okay, oil has been around for 50 years. Now we have the secret meetings, or let's just say 100 rich people from the world to gather around. You're on this conversation too, you're listening. And Pete, listen, we're transitioning over from oil to electric. You know what? Maybe we could start some shit where oil is going to go up, sell all your barrels, sell your companies. We're going to transition to electric, and then transition. You have to 2030. So do whatever you're going to do in these next 5 years to increase your revenues, and then ditch it behind.
Yeah,
and this is how businesses get shut down and reopen up. Yep. I don't want to get into like politics and all that, but we love to get into stuff. But like that's
nitty gritty, to dip down and dirty.
That's what happened to like before 9/11 and all these like conversations that big oil had. Correct, that all these Henry Kissingers and all this stuff, like they knew they were going into Iraq
arms and shit.
big oil. Get prepared, and we're using the weapons of mass destruction, NMD, as a way, as an excuse to get in there. Same thing we did with Vietnam. But that's a conversation for another episode because we're talking about testosterone.
Yeah, if y'all want some history lessons on war and conflicts, let us know. Send in a request. We could talk about the Cuban Missile Crisis. We could talk about the Cold War, Soviet Union. We could talk about World War I, what happened to Poland. We could talk about any kind of stuff. We got it. I guarantee if you drop it in DM, we've probably heard it more times than you. We're historians.
Alrighty, ladies and gents. If you guys enjoyed the show, find some value, find some humor, please share with your loved ones. This is how we grow. This is how we get boosted in the algorithm. And see you on the next one.
Thank you guys so much. Peace out.